this border war. Fans called it Moonshine Throwdown. I think that's the best rivalry name, an unofficial name, but the best rivalry name I've come across.
Yeah, unofficial that should become official soon enough.
Embrace it.
5 receivers at Duncan's disposal. Duncan stepping up. Hit! Ball is loose!
Big call here.
Marshall thinks they have it, and the Herd do!
Here's the kickoff from Amaretto Curry to the Hilltoppers, and we are underway, and a fake reverse on the kick return. And here comes Townsend down the left sideline. What a way to start it for Western Kentucky on the road, and it is an opening touchdown return, and just like that, the Hilltoppers strike first.
Justin Rohrwasser to try to win it for Marshall from 53 yards out. It's got the leg. It is good! And the perfect season continues for Justin Rohrwasser.
Goes for 2. Going for the win. Western Kentucky going for the victory. Rolling to his right, quick strike, and they did it! Western Kentucky has ended the perfect season into the hands of Willie McNeil. A shocker here in West Virginia, and it is over for Marshall. They end the regular season 11-1.
Welcome back to the Moonshine Throwdown podcast. Week 1 is in the books. Tops and the Herd get a big win. Marshall really dominated Navy, and now it's Western Kentucky's turn to go play Army. 2 very similar teams, of course, Army and Navy. The service academies outside of Air Force, which suitably, I guess, is a more pass-heavy service academy, which kind of makes sense. Army and Navy are more your triple option type threats, very similar in the way they do things. And looking at the stats for this preview, Steve, it looks like it's going to be a lot of what you would see playing or rewatching the Marshall Navy game. So maybe the Herd put the blueprint out there on a good way to beat this triple option team. Now, of course, they're 2 separate teams, but looking at these statistics and versus what we just talked about in a recap episode about the Herd and Navy, it's a lot of similarities here. So let's get into some of the particulars. Of course, the game's going down Saturday, which is September 11th, 2021, which happens to be the 20th anniversary of 9/11. So you know something special is going on up in West Point, New York. I'm sure it's going to be really something to see. I don't really know what to make of it, but it's going to be something special. There will be some sort of special pregame moments, I'm sure. 11:30 Eastern is the kick, 10:30 Central. Game will be broadcast on CBS Sports Network. So if you can't go to the game or aren't going to the game, then at least you get easy access to watch it. Power Index, not a big fan of Western Kentucky, Steve. 23.8% chance to win for the Tops. Army, though, is only -7, which is a little bit of a head-scratcher thing. If you think that ESPN is that convinced, 3/4 of the way convinced, basically, that Army's going to win this game, yet Vegas only has them at -7. Over-under is 54, which, of course, last week the over-under for the Tops was 59, and they met that themselves. So, we'll see where we are with that. All-time meeting between Western Kentucky and Army is 3-0. Tops won them all, most recently back in 2019, which is a game that you continually refer to as out-armying Army in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and, well, that's really what happened. Army 1-0 on the year. They just came off of a pretty convincing win over Georgia State on the road, 43-10. So here's where kind of some of those similarities between the recap of the Navy-Marshall game and stats from Army versus Georgia State kind of stick out. Army ran for 258 rushing yards on 67 rush attempts in a game that they held the ball for 42 minutes, over 42 minutes, which is right on par with what we saw Navy do with Marshall. They held the ball just over 41 minutes. So this is Very, very similar type approach to the game. Army averaged 3.9 yards per carry. They were 10 of 16 on third downs, 3 of 3 on fourth downs. They forced 2 turnovers on defense and only had 2 penalties in the entire game. Here's where it gets even a little bit weirder. I mean, the rest of that kind of stuff is like, all right, well, that's pretty cool. It's typical Army stuff. A lot of time possession, a lot of rushing yards, a lot of carries. They only threw 4 passes in the game. Okay. Those 4 passes came from 3 different quarterbacks. And 2 of those 4 passes went for touchdown. I mean, what? So combined by 3 quarterbacks, 2 of which went 1 of 1. The third one went 1 of 2. They went 3 of 4 for 98 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, if you're going to utilize the pass, holy crap, that's the way to utilize the pass. And of course, for all their efforts this week, Army received a couple of votes. I can't remember if it was either in the coaches poll or the AP. I think they received like 2 or 3 votes. So, Steve, I'm not sure this is the exact same type of thing as it was in 2019. I'm sure some of the players are probably still on that Army team. I'm sure a few are still on that topper team from 2019, but you got to think with all the change we've seen with Western Kentucky now in the portal in the offseason and just the nature of college football in general, there's probably not a whole lot you can deduce from the 2019 game now. So what are your thoughts as you look forward to heading up to West Point and taking on an Army team?
Well, I think, Army is you kind of know what you're going to get. When you talk about them playing a clean game, not a lot of penalties, very run heavy. I think none of that stuff is surprising. Looking back to that game 2 years ago, when we had the Clayton White-led defense that really just out-armied them. We really shut them down in the run game, held them to a low yard per carry, and got off the field when we need to get off the field. And then we were able kind of just to do just enough to win the game offensively. They're going to come in with that same approach. They're going to want to control time of possession. And it's really going to be up to our defense. Our defense is going to have to step up, bend, don't break, get off the field enough on third down, because I don't think that their defense, in the same regard, is going to have the playmakers and the ability to stop our playmakers in space, if that makes sense. I think a couple of years ago when we out-armied Army, it was a combination of the offensive talent we had and the firepower, the manpower we had, the scheming that we were doing. I think it's going to look a lot different this year. I don't expect a grind-out type victory like that was. But I think it will take a good effort, a clean effort, turnover-wise, penalty-wise. I think, some of those things are going to have to go more in our favor, and try to, not let them control the clock, control the possessions, and get quick possessions back, possibly on short fields. I think it'll be a different mentality just because we have different brains and play callers and athletes. And we want to do different things than what we were doing 2 years ago. We already showed that in one game. So I think it'll definitely be a challenging game. I never go into this type of game and think, this is going to be an easy win. But despite that power index and the Vegas spread, I'm still pretty confident with our guys and what we're going to put on the field and our ability to, basically outscore them if that's what it takes. And I think several games will come down to that. I think we have plenty of firepower to outscore them.
This is where I feel like the moves that were made in the offseason help set up the ability to weather a 40-minute time of possession by a team like Army and still win, because you now have serious quick strike capability to score from anywhere on the field at any time. And if again, we can just draw direct comparisons between Marshall and Navy and now Western Kentucky and Army, or what I think will happen, because that's exactly what Marshall did. their guys the Navy defense could not hang with Marshall's receivers in space. And I think we're going to see a very similar effort between Western Kentucky and Army's defense this week. And, it might be a scenario that's quite similar to what we saw the Herd do, where they, you joined us on that recap episode and they passed very well between the 20s and then had to utilize the run game just to punch the ball in. And we could see the same thing by Western this week. And of course, I have no doubt that Zappy's going to get a few passing touchdowns anyway, because that's just kind of what he does, at least through one game. He's doing it better than anybody else in the country. But the similarities of these two games of what I just saw and what I think I'm about to see, I mean, the score might not be the same. I'm not expecting Western to go in there and get him a 49-7 victory, but would it also surprise me if that happened? No. We just saw 59 points get put on the board. And if the defense starts turning in an effort like we think that they should do along the defensive line and linebacking core, well, maybe Army doesn't move the ball as well. I have no reason to think that Georgia State's defense is better than Western Kentucky's defense. So I would imagine it's going to be a tougher test for Army, but it's just its own animal. How many times are we going to say that in these first 2 weeks of the season? Triple option teams are just their own animal. So to that end, let's talk about some of these guys. And because there's a weird, 3 quarterbacks played and threw 4 passes thing, I had to include all 3 of them because you might see all 3 of them again. But I could not sit down and write every running back that took a carry because there were a ton of them. And, some guys only had 1 or 2 carries, but they might have tallied 25, 30 yards. So it was a total team effort for them to get that 250 some odd rushing yards on 67 carries. But here we go. Quarterback number 4, Christian Anderson, the 6'1", 195-pound senior. He was the one that went 1 of 2 for 40 yards, but he did throw a touchdown, and he was the team's leading rusher, 15 carries for 55 yards and another touchdown on the ground. Number 7, quarterback Jamel Jones, 5'10", 205-pound junior. He threw a pass, 1 of 1 for 32 yards, and it went for a touchdown. Number 2, quarterback Tyir Tyler, 5'8", 185. He's a junior. 1 of 1 for 26 yards, did not find the end zone, and another 8 carries on the ground for 36 yards. So several quarterbacks. And also, I didn't write down the rushing yards for Jones because they were like minuscule. Maybe only a handful, but these guys are going to run it and of course throw it. Leading running backs leading runner from a running back standpoint, number 38 running back Jacoby Buchanan, 6'1", 260 pounds, junior, 11 carries for 38 yards and a touchdown. Altogether, there were 12 Army ball carriers that chipped in on that 67 attempt game. Running backs Tyrell Robinson and running back Brahim Murphy had 1 reception each that both went for a touchdown. So not even their wide receivers were the guys catching touchdowns. It was running backs as well. The other guy that caught a pass was a wide receiver. I didn't jot him down, but I do remember he went 6'3" and 200 something. So they got a guy on the outside with a little bit of size. So what are you expecting now? We talked about it a little bit, and we expect a lot of running from Army, but more particularly, what do you think is gonna have to happen with this Topper defense to make a real dent? Something they weren't able to do really against UT Martin in the run game.
A lot of it is, I don't think it's going to be a lot about attacking the quarterback because they move that pocket around so much, and that option to flick it is always there. I think it's always about kind of knowing your lanes, knowing your gaps, and just being disciplined. Not trying to get outside of your containment and be overzealous and making a play. And I think once they start scheming and diagramming that kind of attack, it sets up beautifully. But then if you go back and watch how we defended it a couple years ago, we also defended it beautifully. I'm sure this WKU team and the coaches and staff I'm sure we're going to go back and watch that 2019 film and see exactly what we did and how we were so successful. But I really think the biggest thing is going to be offensively. We're just going to have a different mindset. But the defense has really, really, really just we're going to have to clamp down and buckle down on the third and fourth downs, and really try to get off the field and keep them under a 50% completion on those third and fourth down conversions, because that offense will, if they get in a fourth and short position, 2 or 3 yards, they're going to go for it. Especially if they're playing field position, if they're on the plus side of the field, they're going for it. And I think even the 2019 stats, I don't recall it off the top of my head, but I feel like they went for it on fourth down a good number of times. And I remember talking about it in the post game that we had to look at their third down and their fourth down conversions because they did go for it so often. And I think that's their mindset because they are so successful in what they do with running and that attack, that they can take that risk. They want to keep it away from you. You can't score if they have the ball. So I think defensively, it's just going to be about being disciplined, keeping the play in front of you, and being a lot, more sure with the tackles. That was kind of one of my things I noticed in the last game is we weren't exactly wrapping up and keeping the play where it was. A couple of those runners for UT Martin were able to make pretty good sizable runs because we didn't have clean tackling. So I think defensively, it's just going to have to be a more sound effort, a big team effort. And hopefully those DBs don't get caught sneaking down, looking down, and those 4 passes can be deadly because they will go over top every once in a while. So I think, but I think there's a lot to do. I don't think it's going to be easy for our defense. But I surely think, that we have enough mind power, brain power to put a winning plan together.
As you were talking again, you always inevitably say something that makes me want to look up something. So I went back while you were giving your synopsis and looked at third and fourth downs from that 2019 game. And it was an amazing job because, just last week, Army goes 10 of 16 on third down, 3 of 3 on fourth down. In that 2019 game, Toppers hold them to 3 of 11 on third down. They were pretty successful on fourth down, 2 of 2, but 3 of 11 on third down is what you got to have. A 10 of 16 will absolutely keep you off the field, keep you behind the 8 ball. And just as an aside, I managed to catch my eye right before I flipped the screen off of, what I was looking at there. And the Toppers only had 2 penalties in that game back in 2019. So, you played clean ball, you got off the field, and you eked out a victory. Now, this is completely different type of offense. And I'm convinced that the quick strike, this is one of those coin flip games that we talked about a few weeks ago, to where this quick strike capability is going to be huge in potentially being able to get a win. When you think about going minus 20 in the time of possession game, potentially, being able to score in 2, 3, 4 plays, a minute and a half, that's what you're going to have. So let's talk about a handful of these Army defenders that are going to try to thwart the Hilltopper attack. A lot of the stats are not going to blow you away because, hey, you're not on the field that often if you hold the ball 42 minutes. But leading the way for Army is a defensive back number 3, Julian Mcduffie, 5'11", 185-pound senior. Actually, the top 2 guys are basically the same. 5 tackles, 3 solo. Then linebacker number 53, Eric Smith, 6'1", 235-pound senior. Also 5 tackles, 3 solo, 1 tackle for loss. But perk up on this guy. Put a circle around number 34, find him, Logan. He's going to be easy to spot, first of all. Andre Carter, the second linebacker, 6'7", 250. Wow. 3 tackles, 3 solo, 3 tackles for loss, 3 sacks last week. He's the one you're going to want to know where he's at. Faux show. All in all, impact plays, 6 tackles for loss for a team by Army. Of course, the 3 sacks all went by Mr. Carter, and they did nab an interception. So, look, they got some playmakers, but just as when we were talking about Army and Marshall, Navy and Marshall, I keep having to bring this up. They're not going to match with you athlete for athlete across the board, up and down the roster. It's just not going to happen. So we saw last week that the Toppers have a myriad of wide receivers and very capable runners. So there's just no way. And probably, I'm not going to say probably, without a doubt, going to be the best pure quarterback on the field, period. So offensively, let's just skip what do you think you're going to do offensively. What do you think the Tops got to do to get a win, basically?
Well, I made my few bullet points, and I tried to be as more specific as possible. I didn't want to be those broad, big things, but the first one was win the turnover. Be plus on turnovers, win the turnover battle, and kind of reflecting back to the Marshall review. I remember you guys talking about putting the ball in the ground a lot. 4 fumbles, even though I don't think you only lost, but maybe one of those, maybe 2. But you had such a scoring cushion defensively. Y'all were just better. I think our game might be closer than that. I think 1 or 2 turnovers against us will make it a nail biter and make it uncomfortable. So I think we have to win the turnover battle comfortably, or even if it's just chalk 0-0, 1-1. I don't think we can't get behind the hole and it be 3-1, 4-1, something crazy like that. So I think winning the turnover battle is huge. The second thing is something we did against UT Martin. Keep John Haggerty off the field. If you don't punt the ball, you're finishing drives. You're putting points on the board. I think points are going to be a premium for this offense. And I absolutely think our offense can outgun their offense, if it boils down to it. And then the third thing is something I've already alluded to, but the defense to hold the Army offense to less than 50% success rate on 3rd and 4th down, cumulatively. I think we have to get off the field when we get in those kind of do or die, make or break downs. We have to get off the field, make a play, keep it in front of them, and just get the ball back to our offense. As much as that defense might give up because they are going to run the ball, they're going to be successful. Bend, don't break, and get off the field at some point. Give the ball back to Zappy and let him go score some points. So those are my 3 things that I think we have to do if we want to kind of pull the upset for this game. I think we have to do those things.
This may turn out to be the weirdest style shootout of all time. When you talk about an Army team that will methodically move up and down the field on you if you can't get them off the field, and then just score 7 after 8 minutes, or something like that. And then you have to turn right around and score in, 2 minutes or whatever the case may be. But, we saw Western didn't do a fabulous job of time of possession last week. UT Martin had them +7 in time possession, and that's just a normal style team. That's a running, passing, run-of-the-mill type thing, and Toppers were still -7 in time of possession, and that's not something that we can see compounded, but are most likely to see be compounded against Army. For me to win, number one, first and foremost, you're going to have to do much better against the run. 201 yards on the ground for UT Martin last week against the majority of the time is the first unit. So, that's got to get better because we see that once you get up into that 50, 60 rushing attempt thing, that just wears dudes down. And if you're not conditioned for that, then it's going to be a rough go. So they're going to just have to do a much, much better job of sound tackling, playing assignment football, setting the edge, staying at home, being very disciplined, and do all that you can do to limit Army's ability to just gain 4 yards, 5, 6, 10 yards at a time. If that doesn't happen, then the rest of it is probably going to be, you just may not have enough time on the clock to do what you need to do to get a win. But to that end, and to what you're saying is keeping John Haggerty off the field means you're scoring points, which my number 2 point is maximizing whatever opportunities that you get. If you're only going to get a handful of drives because Army's sucking up so much of the clock, well, you better capitalize on those. You better maximize those drives. You better get something every time you touch the football in order to, either maintain a comfortable lead, maintain at least a 9-point lead, or, put yourself in a position to quick strike yourself back into the game. Number 3, take advantage of those mismatches. I said that earlier. There is no way you're going to convince me that through the secondary and the linebacking core, Army is going to put enough guys on the field that can stop Davis, Stearns, Burt, Tinsley, Cofield, all these guys, Simon. They don't have the defenders to stop these guys. They may gang up and try to double team who they think is lighting them up, but that we just saw it last week. That just opens the door up for somebody else to light you up. And number 4, look, for the last time, hopefully in this episode, I'm going to have to say this. Copy what Marshall did against Navy. Come out and be more fierce, be more angry, be more high energy, high motor. They were hitting harder. You need to hit harder than Army. You need to run harder than Army. You need to look at on special teams. They blocked a kick, a punt, and a field goal. I mean, those were difference makers in that game. Early in the game, Navy went for it on 4th down, and the Herd shut them down. You're going to see that same type of thing in this game. And if you can get the early stop on 4th down early, that's a tone setter. All of a sudden, they start to think later in the game, man, maybe we shouldn't go for it on 4th and a long 3. Maybe we ought to just try to pin them deep and see if we can get it back type thing. But all 4 of those things I thoroughly believe have to happen in order for the Tops to get a win here. None more importantly than being able to stop the run more effectively. Who's your 200 proof player this week?
Yeah, I'm riding the number 4 horse again, Bailey Zappi. Again, I think it very well could turn out to be a little bit higher scoring both ways, especially than we saw a couple years ago in our 2019 matchup. But I think it'll be a tighter game than UTM was score-wise, because I think our defense can and will allow some yards and points. But I think Zappi is, he's just going to kind of be that person we're leaning on all year. We've kind of talked around it all year. I think that the offense is going to have to be the head of the snake this year, whereas we leaned on the defense the last couple of years. So it's Zappi. Does he need to come out and throw 7 touchdowns and 450 yards again and get snubbed for Conference USA Player of the Week again? I don't think he has to do that, but I think he needs to come out and be the maestro of the offense. Do what he did last game. I think 5 or 6 touchdowns is not unthinkable, because I think we're going to have a lot of successful drives, but it doesn't necessarily have to be through the air every game. Every touchdown is not going to be a passing touchdown. So but I think it's Zappi. I think he's the man in charge. I think he's the man pulling the trigger, and he's probably going to be this pick a lot. Just kind of pencil him in here for me until further notice. It's Bailey Zappi.
Yeah, I'm on the train now. I needed to see it a week, and I saw it a week, and I'm on the train. It's Bailey Zappi for me too, because you said it. All the reasons he's got to be the guy. The offense revolves around him, and until a team, even though we're only 1 week in, until a team proves they can stop what he does really well, he's the guy. And I'm not sure Army's got the athletes across the board to be able to effectively stop him. Even if they are managed to stop 1 or 2 receivers, there's 3 or 4 more, out there, guys coming out of the backfield, they can catch a ball. There's plenty of other options out there. So with the command of the offense that he has, somebody's always open. Even when you're not open, you're open. We saw that last week. Score prediction. What do you got?
Yeah, I've been going back and forth on this one. Especially looking at the spread and the over-under. I'm going with the over. I'm smashing the over, and I'm giving Western the win. Call it red goggles, call it whatever you want. I think we have more firepower, and it is a coin flip. We were going down season prediction reviews. I remember I'm pretty sure I had this one chalked as a W. And I think we beat my expectations at versus UTM as far as offensively what we're going to put together in game 1. I expected more wrinkles there versus the slow start and then just absolutely pedal to the floor. So I went with WKU 45 and Army 31. Still, 2-touchdown game. And like I said earlier, I think the turnover thing, if it's not in our favor there, that 14 could be 7 or less real quick. So I think a 14-point win may be generous. And 76 points total, might be high. But I think it's certainly possible with what we saw from both of these teams in week 1.
Yeah, well, the point total is definitely high for me just because of the type of offense that Army runs, and they just chewed up so much clock that last week. I don't know that there's going to be enough time on the clock to get that high, but look, this was the first coin flip game of the year, and yeah, you penciled this one in as a win. And then I thought this might have been one that I talked you out of in that segment where I ran down the schedule really fast. And you're thinking, well, okay, well, maybe this, maybe that. But it's the first coin flip of the game or of the season for me. So I'm going to edge to the tops. Why not? I mean, I got no reason not to, but I'm going to let them reach that 30-point plateau that you say you have to reach in order to win the majority of your games. I'm not sure that there will be enough time on the clock to get to 45 points or something like that. There might have to be a couple of defensive scores or special team scores or something like that to be able to get that high. But give me the Toppers in the nail-bitingest game possible, 31-30 over Army, moving to 2-0 on the season. Why the hell not? What do you got for final thoughts this week before we get the heck out of here?
Well, you've already mentioned that it's the 20th anniversary of 9/11, so the game and the environment, surrounding everything at this game is going to be exciting. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's a 10:30 a.m. kickoff, just something ridiculously early. So that'll be fun. I plan on driving not your way, but West Virginia way, kind of watching this on the phone.
It's totally my opposite way.
Yeah. I better not be going south. I better just keep going east. But I'll probably be watching this game on the road, with the phone streaming. Hopefully the Eastern Kentucky reception and cell signal allows that to happen. So, but I'll be at the mercy of that. But it should be a great just environment game. I know a lot of fans making the trip, and I know the players are gonna just be really respectful and love the atmosphere and environment that they're going to get to experience. I think it's kind of what college football is about, like bringing people together and just remembering something that's bigger than us. I think we see that every year with Marshall in the 75 game. I think this September 11th tribute is really going to be just special for everyone involved, just because it was so impactful to the entire nation. And even though a lot of these kids will be playing weren't even born, but they've been hearing about it since they were old enough to learn. So I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be special. I think the offense and the team and even the defense need to continue to get better. I'm going to be looking forward to those steps of improvement, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where we talk about having bigger opportunities for improvement. Kind of need to see that now, especially with the couple games coming up after this with those Big Ten opponents. We need to see a step in the direction of getting better and having a better, more solid defense, or this really could turn into that 2014 season where we literally had to outgut everybody because our defense was just kind of that low on the national average and the national totem pole. So, I'm looking for big steps forward. Offensively, I think it'll just be smoother. But I think defensively, I want to see something and see us continue to get better. But I think it should be a fun and great game and environment for everyone involved. And we just hope the Tops come out victorious.
Yeah, this will be a definite confidence builder if you're able to go into West Point and get a win. This weekend is really a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for a lot of these guys because, after college, the vast majority of people are not going to be playing ball again. And to be able to be on the field for a milestone anniversary like this and be in West Point when it happens, This is something these guys are going to remember, win or lose, for the remainder of their life. When they think back to, 30, 40 years from now, and they're like, man, I remember when I played ball in college, whatever, you start thinking about the things that stand out in your mind. I guarantee you this weekend is going to be one of those things that stands out just because of how precise everything will be in West Point. It's something I heard from Herd fans always, how utterly beautiful and precise everything was at Navy. Now magnify that because you're looking at a milestone thing that was directly related to national security and what have you. So, nobody's going to take that more seriously than Army. The last thing I'm going to say is, even though I don't really cheer for service academies, I don't cheer against them, but I don't really root for one every year. I kind of do now. And, we've put this out there many times on the social media and stuff. So, but, this is the time to bring it up on the podcast for real. My son enlisted in the Army earlier this summer. And, he's gone through basic training. He's in his AIT right now outside Augusta, Georgia. And he's going to finish up with that in a couple of months. And he'll be home sometime around mid-October for a couple of weeks until he goes on to his next endeavor. But so now we root for Army. And, we're going to turn that off this week because, we root for Western a little bit harder than we do for Army. But for every other week in the year and the season, we're going to root for Army. We're going to pull for them to win the Commander-in-Chief trophy and all that good stuff. But for 1 week, we're going to need you to keep it close, but not come out victorious. I guess we also alluded to the fact that you are not going to be going to the game. You're actually going to be coming towards Huntington, West Virginia, and Steve's going to join us in Huntington for the Marshall game against North Carolina Central. I'm going to be in Huntington for a separate event, but my time in Huntington is going to allow me to be able to go to the Marshall game. So that's just a nice little added bonus. And that's kind of how this whole thing kind of worked out. And Steve kicked around the idea maybe I can come up. We'll see. And then it started looking like it was going to work out. And then ultimately it's going to work out. So for the first time that I can remember in a long time, I guess since Trace has joined the podcast, because you've been in Huntington before for games, and this might be the first time since Trace has joined the podcast that we've all three been at the game at the same time, because it's well documented he doesn't travel to away games, and he's probably not going to listen to this. So he'll never hear that. But Steve rides him pretty hard about not coming to Bowling Green and seeing a game. So now Steve has another feather in the cap over Trace, and that he's gone to a Marshall game that's not even involving Western Kentucky. So now Trace has zero excuses not to come down to BGKY for a game. But yeah, this might be the first time since Trace has been on the podcast that all three of us have been at the same game at the same time. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to seeing some old friends, making some new friends. We've already been in touch with a lot of folks on social media, letting them know we're going to be in town, letting them know Steve's going to be coming up for the game. And it's been really very well received. Nobody is like, better keep your Western ass in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Everybody's like, come on down. We can't wait to see you. That's just kind of what you expect from Herd fans. Really, that's what I expect from Western fans too. Everybody's always great to me wherever I am. But let's go get a big win this weekend. Let's build that confidence as we head into a game against Indiana and then a game against Michigan State. This will go a long way towards what I think will ultimately happen for the remainder of the out of conference schedule. They need this one to at least think you think come out of an out of conference split, and maybe you'll sneak another one in there and get a 3-1, or God, good Lord, if you come out 4-0, this team's going to be ranked without a doubt. Back to that Conference USA Offensive Player of the Week snub. We can't get out of here without bringing that up because that was complete and utter bull crap. The Power 5 bias in Conference USA is real and it's shameful. Charlotte beat Duke, which good for Charlotte. I tweeted good for Charlotte. But Duke's freaking Duke, man. They're not like, I don't know who's the best team. Who's best team in the ACC? Clemson. It's not Clemson. It's Duke. I mean,
This is football, not basketball.
they led the country in turnovers last year. I mean, how great are they? But anyway, I get it. It's a big win, whatever. But, then I saw something that who else was put on a watch list or an honorable mention list or something for one of these national quarterback awards, and 2 Conference USA quarterbacks got put on that list or were recognized, and neither one of them was Bailey Zappi. The other one was Frank Harris, who went from UTSA, and that's because they beat Illinois. I mean, come on, man. It's our own conference playing Power 5 bias against our own guys. Yeah, it was UT Martin, whatever. You still got to make the throws. The guys still got to make the catches, and you still got to get in the end zone. 7 touchdowns is 7 freaking touchdowns. It's not like it was like 5. That happens pretty often. 7 doesn't happen very often. So, Conference USA, get your shit together. Quit hating. God, I'm out of here on that note. I'm over it. Steve, take us out of here so we can look forward to a fun weekend ahead.
Well, it's still death taxes and Bailey Zappa, the Conference USA Offensive Player of the Week, because Chris Reynolds was not my Offensive Player of the Week.
He wasn't anybody's Offensive Player of the Week outside of the state of North Carolina.
Yeah, so no, go Tops.
Go Herds. It's the Moonshine Throwdown podcast. Later.